Perfectionism fosters rigid coping strategies and beliefs. It can make you believe there's only one way to do things. It can make you believe that if something isn't perfect, it's a failure. Perfectionism is a way of gaining personal sense of control. It's also a coping strategy to compensate for fears that we're not good enough. Since most new moms worry they might not be a good enough mom, it's only natural that perfectionism often flares after having a baby. Let's look at this another way. What if you were good enough just the way you are? Good enough as a woman, good enough as a mother. How freeing is that? Another common thought pattern that can trigger anxiety is called catastrophic thinking. This is assuming the worst will happen. For example, thinking, oh, my mom had postpartum depression, I'm definitely going to get it. No, just because you have a few risk factors does not mean you're going to get it. People tend to overestimate risk. Ask yourself what is actually the most likely outcome, not what are you most afraid of. Some people take it a step further and envision scenarios, but not scenarios we're actually facing or even likely to face, but potential imaginary ones. We can convince ourselves that if we think enough bad scenarios, we can protect ourselves from anything bad happening. Unconsciously, we may believe that by worrying about something enough, we may be able to prevent it or be prepared. This is waiting for the other shoe to drop thinking. It can almost feel dangerous to stop worrying. Some people superstitiously believe that if they allow themselves to relax and enjoy the moment, something terrible will happen. Thinking about terrible things rarely prepares us or protects us. It causes a lot of unnecessary stress, and it doesn't work for a few reasons. First, the worse the situation we imagine, the harder our mind works to find a bigger problem to solve. For example, a person in a boat might wonder, what would they do if the boat started to sink? That's a pretty normal thought to have cross your mind. So you come up with a plan to swim to shore or mentally note where the life jackets are, or maybe you put one on. All these are healthy approaches to this situation. With anxiety, a person will then imagine how each of those scenarios might not work and comes up with plans for each of those, and then so on and so on. For each solution, a new obstacle is imagined. It's exhausting mental gymnastics, and it gives someone a sense that life is filled with unsolvable dilemmas. In this way, anxiety reinforces itself. Second, when we think about potential disasters, we spend too much of our lives as if something bad will happen rather than being in the moment. Worry prevents us from being present. You can be on a beautiful sunset cruise, but instead of enjoying it, you might be thinking about who you might have to fight for that last life jacket. That's not being in the present. Third, imagining catastrophes reinforces a cognitive pathway of worry. Thinking about scary things becomes a habit. It's as if a neuronal superhighway is built. These scary thoughts trigger physiological stress reactions. They cause adrenaline to be released, our blood pressure to go up, and our heart to beat more rapidly. A person can experience a lot of misery and miss out on a lot of joy when they interpret the world this way. The good news is that this pattern can be both prevented and stopped. Like most things, it's easier to prevent than stop, though there are some steps you can follow in order to work on stopping this pattern of thinking.